Welcome back. I've got Clifford Stephan online. Clifford, how are you?
Great. How about yourself? Thanks so much
I'm
for having
doing,
me.
oh, my pleasure. Really good topic that we're going to talk about today. Important one too. So why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Sure. Yeah. So I am 51-year-old male, grew up in the Bay Area, and I've had a human resources compensation consulting firm designing employee and executive pay plans for pre-IPO tech and private companies in the Bay Area for the last 20 years. And got a degree in nutritional science, pretty active in sports, kind of a health nut. And yeah, kind of by my late 30s, early 40s, kind of starting to look and feel my age, and was pretty heavy social drinker, and it was in corporate America, and so I kind of wound up taking a break from alcohol and just kind of got a lot of epiphanies and a lot of just benefits. I think you hit on a lot of these things around stress management and kind of just looking and feeling and trying to perform at your best and be grateful and all those things. And so I that was kind of my epiphany. And so yeah, I'm super excited. So I started this men's health and wellness movement called Booze Vacation to kind of encourage my peers to consider taking an extended break from alcohol to as kind of a reset and kind of a opportunity to kind of tap the brakes with our our health and wellness, and because it is one of those kind of predictive models that can cause a lot of issues and a lot of ongoing stress. And so, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm officially full time starting in June. So I'm super pumped, kind of my life's passion. And it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, so that's what I'm kind of up to.
That's very important work. And yeah, I've shared a little bit on my show. I think I know I've had it in conversations, maybe not so much on my show, but as far as my family is concerned, there's alcoholism in every branch of my family. Mom's side, dad's side, mom's side, mom's dad's side. You just name it. You literally branch the thing out, and you can pinpoint where alcohol was a huge issue for people. Now, for some, it isn't per se, um, but it does impact, as you know, your research and the work that you do does impact a lot of things. Obviously, our physical health, but also our mental health as well. Because I know a lot of people, especially those, I have, family members that deal with it or have dealt with it, when they were alive. It was, it's a coping mechanism to quote unquote get away from the stressors of life instead of dealing with the stressors of life. And it's kind of ironic in a way because if you deal with the stressors in your life head on without additives and whatnot, you can actually overcome those stressors where you don't need the, the vice basically to overcome your stressors. But it's one of those things where people don't quite grasp that for some reason.
Yeah, it's a really tricky substance. And yeah, we're not targeting alcoholics. We're really targeting men of success that, I think have a difficult time navigating our alcohol obsessed culture where it's at work, it's at play, it's at your sales meetings, it's at all the dinners. And yeah, just, with your physiology, your workload, and what you've accomplished. A lot of people, kind of lean into their careers, and there's a lot of wear and tear that goes with that. And you pick up some bad habits. And I think we have a tendency to try to be that same guy from high school or college. It's wild and crazy and work hard, play hard. But unfortunately, as you stack on the responsibilities and the wear and tear, it is a pretty predictive model. Like you mentioned, obviously stress, it's essentially even small amounts of alcohol, couple drinks regularly, every week will rewire your neural circuitry. So we're talking your baseline levels are higher stress, higher anxiety, lowered mood, lack of impulse control and discipline. So that's a pretty big deal in and of itself. And then you have sleep, you have brain fog, you have how it's affecting, again, through that impulse control, your diet, your blood sugar. It goes down a pretty far rabbit hole when it comes to just looking, feeling, and performing at your best, being grateful, being present, and not just kind of moping around waiting for the weekend, when you have all your stuff to do during the work week. And so yeah, it's a pretty big important deal. And I kind of found in my peers, it's so ingrained in our operating system and our reward system and how we relax and how we go to events that it's, we'll take a dry January, we'll cut back a little bit, but the science shows that, in most cases, guys are going to need a dedicated 3 to 6 month break just to kind of get back to factory settings when it comes to your rewired circuitry, as well as just kind of getting that back socially and at work to be able to navigate life and relearn how to have fun without it. And if you don't, unfortunately, again, you could be taking action, but you're just really not getting the results. And so you're like, okay, that didn't work really well. It wasn't very fun. And, I'm really glad to get back at it. And so you kind of miss that opportunity. So booze vacations are 3 to 12 months. We're kind of more offense than defense. We're not making up with lame excuses. We have, a game plan. We know what to say. We have, good non-alcoholic drinks at the ready. And it's really a land grab around all the things that alcohol is diminishing, as well as the wear and tear that comes with success. So really just fixing the core principles around your health and wellness when it comes to your sleep and your diet and your fitness and your operating system, really. And so it's really important. And if you don't, life happens, you get kind of spun up, you have less time and space and more frazzled brain, and it's not great outcomes, and it's not a lot of fun when chronic disease starts showing up, unfortunately, in your 40s and 50s in a lot of cases, depending upon lifestyle factors. So that's kind of the reality. So we're not cool with that. So we're kind of talking some trash on our favorite social pleasantry and having some fun with it.
It's important work. And, eh, for somebody like myself that deals with, individuals and teams that are burned out and stressed and fatigued and all of that, it's a common denominator. Like you said, it's very difficult to go anywhere where it's not front and center, promoted, marketed, from commercials, watching sporting events, at the sporting events, you name it, concerts, at dinners, servers are saying, "Hey, would you like, here's our latest wine collection," or whatever they happen to be pushing that day. It's front and center, and everywhere, and it's a cultural norm. So for those of us that don't drink or have stopped drinking, that's when you notice it if you're paying attention. And sometimes there's that element of peer pressure, but there's also like you said, you wait, 3 to 6 months, you stick to it, and your body, repairs itself and rewires itself. All of a sudden, in many cases, you feel better. You taste foods differently. So, just naturally, your eating habits change because there's certain foods that pair with adult beverages, as I like to call it, and you find that you may not like to eat those types of foods as much. So you improve your diet, you start feeling better. When you start feeling better, all of a sudden, those stressors that you were facing, those stressors are still there, but they're not impacting you the same. And you're able to navigate through them or around them easier because you're not in this fog. You're getting good sleep. You feel better. You start looking better in many cases. And if you're in your 40s and 50s and successful, it will become noticeable for a lot of people. Like, Cliff, what are you doing differently these days? And you're like, well, I just taking care of myself and doing this. And, I've cut back on this, or I've stopped, drinking alcohol for a while. And, I'm seeing some amazing results, and I'm enjoying life without having to have, an adult beverage all the time.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And again, we're not targeting alcoholics. It's a purposeful break to essentially get you up to 100%. A lot of these guys are dragging ass. They're at 50, 60%. They take a month off, they get to 70%. Oh, I feel great. I'm ready to have another drink. And so they don't really ever get that momentum. They don't they're not able to address all these issues that honestly are overwhelming, because again, you could work out, you could eat a kale salad, but with regular alcohol use, you're just down regulating so many different systems that you're pissing up wind with your physiology. And so we want to ultimately, it's not about pointing fingers or pushing sobriety, but it's really about getting guys to 100%, seeing what it's like, and really giving them a choice, because it seems like the current system is like, what's your favorite brand? You want beer or wine? But it's not like you don't get that choice to really get out of that, social construct. Because again, I'm not drinking tonight. That's kind of an awkward conversation. When you're doing these short breaks, they're defensive, you're on your heels, and it's they're not very effective, and you're not getting back to 100%. And so there's really no way out. And it sounds kind of dire, but again, just the typical male. Like, I don't know about your peer groups, but I mean, go to a football game, go to a corporate event, go to a cookout. It's not like, we're having a couple drinks every hour. Some of those drinks have multiple servings of alcohol in them. And, it's 6, 8 drinks. And like, that's going to really do a number on your work week. You're going to be less productive. You're going to be sleeping. You're going to miss workouts. You're going to have more aches and pains and strains and stomach issues. And after that crappy week, you're gonna be looking for another drink, And so it's kind of, you just get stuck in a lot of these negative feedback loops that I don't think people are aware of, again, how deep that rabbit hole goes when you're just messing up so many different systems. It's super common to see, a lot of CPAP machines and snoring appliances. You're dysregulating your autonomic nervous system, your respiratory rate, your heart rate, your stomach. You're creating a leaky gut, chronic inflammation. So there's a lot of Advil and Tylenol, in the gym bags. And ultimately, again, when you're crushing testosterone as males. So, when you stop getting results at the gym and stuff like that, you're like, whatever, I'm kind of a sore shoulder. I'll just, stick with work. And it's like you wind up, you have plenty of money, and then once you lose your health, then you're pretty screwed, because things can kind of go sideways pretty quickly, and you realize you haven't been spinning the right plates. And so I think it's just really imperative as guys. We kind of target guys in their 30s or 50s. We were talking offline about how I think some of these younger generations, they have dating apps, they have weed, they have all kinds of different stuff that, back in the day, I think we were more indoctrinated into the alcohol type stuff. And that, it's a very predictive model. You use it and it works really well. And then when you stop using it for a period of time, it doesn't work well. So you kind of break that system. And again, ultimately, probably 70% of our members will go back to drinking, but they're just drinking way less and for different reasons. And they've had that opportunity to restore their health, which is a limited time only offer. Once you hit chronic disease, a lot of people are going down with cancers and cardiac events and arrhythmias and all kinds of, autoimmune diseases and stomach issues. And, once you kind of start playing with your doctor and pharmacist and surgeon, it's kind of like all bets are off. But we really want to give guys a lifeline and an opportunity. And again, I'm kind of sounding like a nervous Nelly, but the reality is that, success, wear and tear, age, and regular alcohol use is a very predictive model. And it's not just the alcohol, but yeah, it just really erodes your diet and lifestyle. And like you were saying, it's like, yeah, it's really kicking your metabolic health in the groin. And there's a lot of sugar spikes with IPAs, or just, you're just craving a lot of junk and a lot of processed food. You're eating after dinner. That's just regulating your sleep. It's spiking, but it's just kind of, sitting in your gut. It's just a lot of negative things that, you get stuck in, and it becomes normal, and it's not, it really tanks your quality of life that, now, because you're more stressed, you're not as grateful, you're not performing and looking as well. And then later on, when these chronic disease states start showing up, it's not a lot of fun. And this is for guys that don't really have a drinking problem, they're just kind of a normal guy. And so that's kind of the scary part.
Yeah, having worked in healthcare for over a decade, I saw as time was going on, younger and younger people, dealing with chronic diseases. And it scares me because assuming that they do live a longer life, if they hit the average lifespan of what we do today, that's a long life to be dealing with taking medications and all of the side effects and everything else that comes from it. And even a public disclosure, which I have not shared this with anyone. There's only a handful of people that know this. Next month, at the time of this recording, we're recording in the middle of April. Next month, I will have been dry for 1 year. I have not had any alcohol in almost a year. And the things
Awesome.
you've talked about, I noticed, right away. But then as time went on, I just noticed just improvements without necessarily making any other adjustments. But the adjustments kind of came naturally because I was feeling better all the time and not waking up kind of lethargic and groggy and things like that. So I was able to say, you know what, I'm gonna go for a longer walk, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna, work on this, or clarity. It's like, I'm gonna tackle that today, or I'm gonna do this. I just found it easier to do it. And it was, a choice of saying, you know what, I'm gonna take a little of a pause on this. And it got to the point where, pardon the pun, I got addicted to feeling better. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna stay dry. And I've got family and friends that drink, and I shared with them. I said, look, I'm not going to be that reformed smoker to you and say you shouldn't. I mean, I'll point them to this interview and say, hey, watch and listen to this. But, for me, it's like you're going to do what you want to do, and that's you. I'm not going to tell you not to do this or not to do that. But for me, I know everything that you mentioned is absolutely true. What I've experienced over this last 11 plus months is just feeling better, more clarity, digestive system's better, blood sugars and all that kind of stuff. Blood work comes back clean. I just feel and perform better, which has allowed me to do different things and take on additional things that I probably wouldn't have had the necessarily capability or discipline or motivation to want to try. So it's just, I'm a real life example of what you're talking about. And I'm not a client. I'm just full disclosure here. I'm not a client. I'm just, have you on the show. But what you said is truth, because I have experienced it myself. And that's, I was so glad to hear, because it was like, oh, yep, 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 yeah, I was nodding in my head. Yep, 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 you're right. Yep, yep. So again, it's just, we I want people to feel better. Especially when people are stressed and they have a difficult job, and your clients, they're high performing executives, senior leaders, the prime of their work life. Well, if that window is short, we think it's long, but it's not. It's really short. So it's a great opportunity for people to crush it and do really well to set themselves up for the rest of their lives. And just like any athlete or anybody that's doing a performance, you want to be your best so you can be the best. And of course, the rewards come from that. So just, making an adjustment like this, yes, I know it might be challenging for some people, but you're not alone. There's people that can support you. And obviously your team and the resources that your team provides will help people with that.
Yeah, and let me talk a little bit more about Boo's Vacation and your experience. And I think that's awesome. And that's what kind of pissed me off, is that no one's talking about it, no one's trying it, no one's seeing their peers do it, and really connecting the dots. I think us guys are kind of monkey see, monkey do. And when you do it, like you did it, that's fantastic, that's awesome. But you're still kind of in this defensive. It's still very socially, kind of taboo, which is silly because we're not 20 anymore. And so that's really why I created Booze Vacation. And a guy doesn't have to sign up for our program to, take a break from alcohol. But, we do have a lot of, cool free tools and resources just to kind of help guys, kind of navigate that. And that's why I created Booze Vacation. I want to make it kind of fun and aspirational. And, you kind of say Booze Vacation and they'll be like, oh, that sounds like fun. And then you're like, oh, it's this. They'll be like, oh, I don't like that. And then you're like, well, why don't you like that? Oh, so it's just kind of a way to kind of, kind of trigger the conversation. But for me, it made my buddies laugh, and it kind of got me off their back. And so, but I think it's just really important that guys share that experience, because the reality is there's a million guys that could use it, and there's a lot of pent up demand for this type of need, not for alcoholics that don't want to go to AA, but like, what the hell, is everyone else supposed to do? And every guy is trying to have more testosterone, try to build muscle, trying to sleep better, trying to have better relationships, have better sex, better performance, be more grateful, have better digestion and health. It's like all this stuff, like, again, I don't care what you're doing, what protocols you're doing, because I did it. That was me. Like, I drank for 30 years. I had a degree in nutritional science. I had the time, money, and resources to do it. And guess what? Like, I had to throw in the towel. I had a CPAP machine. I had bad blood work. I look and felt like crap. And so I finally threw in the towel. And all these interventions work great. They were just out of sequence. And so I think it's just really important that, so that's kind of why I created, Booze Vacation. So it's not, you're not making any lifetime declarations. You're just like, hey, I'm on vacation right now. And, maybe I'll have a drink later, but right now I'm on vacation and I'm loving it. And it's really kind of, it's kind of, playing offense. Hey, I lost some weight. I'm looking great, like, and it's not like people can't tell that, and I think, again, in our society, I think people just think that parties are about the alcohol. No, they're about the people. And when you're looking and feeling better and, and you're more at ease and you're less anxious, you could actually learn how to have fun without it. And so it's just kind of a foreign concept. And I think a lot of my peers just are, kind of shut down on it. But the reality is it's not a dumb idea. Everybody's trying, everybody should do it. It's a limited time offer only. And like you mentioned, it's more tools in your tool belt. You know how to do it. You have a longer shelf life, a longer runway. You might, say, hey, I still want to drink, or, I might, kind of mix and match and do other things, but it's giving you that option that you don't currently have. And you're no self-respecting man is going to want the big bag of predictive problems that they're signing up for with regular alcohol use, whether it's a CPAP machine, whether it's erectile dysfunction, it's rusting and clogging your cardiovascular system. I could go on and on what it does, but again, there's so many direct and indirect effects to all your organs and functions and systems in your body that it's just a matter of if, not, when, not if. And so that's kind of what we're up against. And so that's why it's so important to us. And yeah, we have a ton of free tools and resources, and then we're going to have like more of a mastermind group and more kind of paid stuff. But at the end of the day, anybody can do it. You're not an alcoholic. But I think the critical piece, one tip I'll tell people is the most critical piece is like, don't try to cut back. Don't take this 1 month stuff. That's defensive. It's not going to work. It's not going to get you to 100%. You really need to, the hardest part about taking a break is not the taking a break, it's the deciding to take a break, and then just make sure you take it, good 3 6 months, and ideally even longer. And it is kind of dose dependent. If you've been drinking for 20 plus years, 3 months probably isn't long enough, but just start with more of a dedicated break to give yourself that runway and that opportunity to really heal, and then take that extra time, money, and energy like you did to work on all these other things. And so that's where it's at. So it's not about sitting around, moping around, waiting for the clock, but it's really about getting after it and using all that extra time, money, and energy to really, stack as many wins as possible. So you're gonna want to keep them, and that's gonna change how you drink long term, no matter how you choose.
Yeah, it's amazing advice, and I'm really thrilled to have had you on the show and talk about this because I know what it's like to feel better, and I want people to feel better and perform better, because when leaders perform better, guess what? Those companies perform better, which means their employees perform better, which means society gets better products and services. So I'm selfish in this. It makes things better for all of us. So it's a win-win for everybody. So Clifford, I've loved this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and all this amazing work you're doing?
Yeah, check us out at boozevacation.com. We got a bunch of tools and resources for free, and a bunch of other stuff, like a community that we're working on. So yeah, totally appreciate it and agree. I think, yeah, just kind of, being present, being grateful, being engaged, and being real, because like I said, I think alcohol can kind of dumb us down and have us in these lowered states, and we're just more us when we're at full capacity. So I agree, and that really helps teams as well.
Agreed. And I'll have all that information in the show notes. So, Clifford, then again, thank you so much for your time and this very, very important conversation. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much. Take care.